that guy Josh, what a guy. He's got nice, soft, tiny hands. They'll caress you. And I want you to get this thing called the 30-second opening range. I want you to slot that on your chart. And when you dip under there and you tag into there and you give it a little tickle tickle, you long it.
Yeah.
I don't care about your 30-minute OR. Nope. Slap it. Can you do that for me? Are you gonna slap
Mm,
it?
yeah, 100%.
You're not gonna slap it. But you did take a good break. These are nice. These are nice. Why are you flat though? Did the avocado farm call and say you gotta get back to work?
No, actually not. Today I was not in the farm.
Then why are you flat? You should be long.
Yeah, I took, let me see where was my buy limit, my sell limit, because I closed the
There's no
trade.
limits today, baby. It's CPI.
Yeah, I know, but
Objectively speaking, though, cold brew, can we actually like walk this through though? Like most people just think that like we're crazy for saying this, but like also like, can you explain why like having a like no set limit will also help a trader instead of hurt a trader?
Yeah,
Like just
yeah.
very objectively, not like emotionally, because I know that we can go on about this.
Yeah, yeah. Emotionally, it's a hodgepodge of things, right? So if you accept the fact that your analysis is dog poop, right? Which is a good thing because no one understands exactly where the market is going to go. Unless like you're Jamie Dimon, right? And even he's an idiot. So if that all equals true, that means that your job as a trader, specifically most likely as an intraday trader because you're trading a funding company's account, a demo account nonetheless, is to make the most amount of money as possible in any given trade, right? Assuming that you don't have to go dig off with, you know, consistency rules or whatever. That means that you have to throw out the idea that there's liquidity here, right? There's no liquidity. You're trading the Nasdaq for God's sakes. It's like the most liquid index in the world. So, if that's true and liquidity isn't actually an issue for this thing, that means you are wanting to see the market get bid higher. You want people to buy into the market through the highs. Because if they don't, then you should kill the trade and then you made your money, right? But a lot of people would be like, oh, relative equal highs. I should kill my trade here because I have a fixed RR. Your fixed RR doesn't mean anything. The amount of money you make for the amount of money you spent is the only thing that matters. Because, like, a lot of ICT people will be like, oh, I got a 1 to 19 RR trade. Me, good trader, right? But what this does is, in your mind, then, you build into this really ugly habit of building conservative targets and nuking trades way too soon. 62 points, 64 points. When you're trading 4 lot, 8 lot, 10 lot, 12 lot, 14 lot, 18 lot, 24, 32, 40, 64 lot, you don't leave that on the table just because you measured a candle. Until you are told a different story, you let it go because 110 is a whole, or 170 is a whole hell of a lot better than 110. So
yeah.
then the question becomes, how do you profit manage through this trade, right? So say you put, how many minis did you trade, engineer?
I trade around 5 or 6 minis.
Thank God you didn't say micros. Um, so 5 or 6 minis, right? So we'll call it six because OCD. So you pull in here because you fixed the drama here. You don't need to wait for some silly fair value gap. And you're
Yeah,
rolling up. You're going into an OR. Take two off, right?
yeah,
Pay for the trade. Don't be a moron. I'm not schooling engineer, by the way. I'm schooling the knuckle brains in chat. So then you're two off and your stop is in profit. Right? then you're wanting to see one of two things. Either a change in state of delivery, e.g. closing underneath down closed candle, yeah, which means at that point your long is booked anyways and you need to go shop the other trade. Or continuation through the highs, not into the highs, through the highs, right? So then we clear the opening range that sits above us, right? So then we take 2 off, right? So now you got 2 running. Maybe you don't take 2 off. Maybe you just trail and put a buy stop right here. And it's
Yeah.
going and running highs, right? So then you have a buy stop here and you have a buy stop here. Put them on trailing and go away. Literally go away because you are not going to manage that trade worth a damn beyond that point. I don't care what wick from what time frame that you've dreamt up in your brain that has some weird little flickety dickety doo dah day. If they're gonna run it, they're gonna run it, and they're gonna run it with the anger of 1,000 toddlers. Just like yesterday, they nuked it. Every single person was like, "They're gonna go run the videos," and they didn't. They stopped at the OR. They ran that shit right back. That's one order getting fully filled. Because it was broken on the way down and they're fixing it back up. Now it's collateralized properly. And now we're going to go because we got to go up and uppity, uppity, up. Well, if that was yesterday's late day trade, there's not a whole lot stopping you up here. Right?
Right.
So then you let it go. The biggest issue that Apex has done to people, because what happens with Apex is stuff like this, right? Is they'll go, okay, well, I can only make $500 or I'm never going to get my payout. You do that for 9 months, 6 months, 3 months, that is going to be burned in your gray matter that is convoluted and sloshing around in your skull. And so then, regardless of that trailing, you are going to make the dumbest decisions. The dumbest. You are going to cut so soon. And what you don't realize is that thing builds in fear, right? Oh, I can't give this back. Right? September, a buddy of mine in my crew deals with this all the time. Great trader. He kills trades like a like they're dandelions. Like homeboy will be up $5,000 and he'll get sweaty palms and he'll kill the trade. And I will rage out like no man has raged out on another grown man on him because I know that he's just scared because of some eval and some funded thing, right? Has taught him to do that. So as you are going through your journey, right? And so engineer has a good system about this and he can talk about it too. I'm gonna have to jump in 15 minutes. But he has intraday, right? Accounts, and then he has CFD swing accounts, I think. Right?
Yeah.
So
Right.
like he is beating the impediment or the impedance of making horrible decisions because he's balancing intra versus proper long-term multi-day runs, right? But if you have a take profit, it's because you're trying to play analyst. You're not trying to play trader. I used to
That's
I
such a
used to preach
gem
the
for anybody.
absolute opposite message, by the way. Because I used to run trading for an options crew, and I was always like, it's better to lock in 10% than have it run back against you. And it's like, no, you just drew a line on it because of a wick. Like how many people would have, run this and killed it because it took a daily or a 4 hour or a weekly or whatever. Your job is to manage profit, which means you say, okay, if it exceeds this opening range, I'm wrong. And then the cost to profit is proper. But we didn't do that. We didn't close underneath today's, which means you have no business trying to go down because the range of opportunity is from here to here. The range of opportunity to the opposing side is from here to here. This is a fool's errand. This is you just trading every wiggle because you're bored. You should be profit managing through this trade. Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes sense.
Beautiful.
That's why I get a little ragey when I see TPs. Now, look, there's other games that we have to play, right? Like you have consistencies, you have time management, you have a bunch of other things. If it's eating you away and you can't go focus on being a dad or being a good friend or you're obsessing about things, like those are good things for you to recognize and for you to trim or to close because that cost is not worth it. Don't think that I'm like, oh yeah, just lock and load, let's go. Like there is a balance in it. Don't be an idiot. Yeah, there's no CSD here. You're going up because let's see, engineer.
And I have a question for you. For example, you consider also the closing range around 350 and 350 30 seconds because I saw the other day that you use it. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
PAX
Great.
teaches it is 359 to 359.30, and the reason why is because that's when every mock order has to be exchanged for either cash value or it has to roll back into a bond, a
Mm.
short-term bond, right? And that's so when you look at bonds opening range and superimpose it, that's why you have bonds opening range, overnight session, all of that. And then on the backside of it, you have bonds closing range. So the closing range of 350.30 and 359 to 359.30, those are subsets of a larger function of the market either collateralizing, right, or de-risking going into fill in the blank, which is why like when you get order pairing at the end of the day of a closing range and your imbalances start shifting, it's because someone has to get out at a given price point because their collateralization is, deemed improper, or they got margin called, or they're moving into a more expedient asset because they're getting cooked on the yen trade because the yen's popping off right now, and everybody's like, "Oh, everybody go to small caps,"
Mm. Yeah, makes sense.
right? Because when you taught the order pairing at the end of the day, I was like, "Wait, why would it happen there?" And then I just kind of worked it down all the way down the stack of like, okay, well, what happens there? Mock orders, bond orders, metal swaps, realization of, you know, if you're buying gold, if you're locking in price for cattle, soy, corn, gold, crude on a quarterly or a yearly basis, that's when that's happening at any given liquidity marker. So of course order pairing is going to happen there, and you're going to have some version of SMT that's informing you that like, hey, tomorrow you have a sick sister on Dow, but you have a, horny little teenager on Nasdaq. Go trade Nasdaq.
Can I get an honest question right here for you, cold brew? Very honest question. If you close your eyes and really ask yourself where you were as a trader before you knew about a closing range or an opening range, like would you even like say like on a scale of like 1 to 10 how much of an improvement of a trader has that like given you as like an edge and or as an analyst, a manager before the PAX days? Because like now like I love you to death and it's like you're the biggest boy about this because it honestly is like so I don't know how to say it. It's so simple and it's also so like keen to the eye that like someone can't also deny it and they can't fade it because if they do, they're just gonna get wrecked. So it's
Right.
like just an honest testimony though, because like it's very easy to like see it and get impressed by it, but I've also talked to you about this very like transparently, like the way that you trade it at the open is very like experienced and takes like a great deal of measure, but like the returns to one like or let's say like an out of the kill zone return or seeing a reaccumulation get stacked, like yeah, you see them like that's like amazing. And like seeing that beforehand, like without even the tool, like I wouldn't be able to see it, and I don't think that PAX necessarily sees it at,
No,
the same
it would
level,
be
and
that
you put your own
incredible.
twist to it. So like, I don't know, it's a pretty cool question that for anybody that's also just not familiar, maybe still about how you like still were like you were ICT trader and now you're full on with this, and it's like I don't know, just really cool to see the whole development because you just put on so much like new
Yeah,
stuff to it.
it's interesting because like the same can be said about some of like the stuff that like Dexter's taught or engineer is taught, right? And the weird thing, and like we've talked about this with like that's why we don't, you know, sell the walk the dog indicator because it's this like it's like if a bunch of trading models went to Chernobyl and made a baby, and then that baby got shipped back to Colorado. That's my trading model, right? Like
Yeah.
before closing range and opening range, I was a hyper discretionary AMD trader that didn't know how to measure in the rears or in the front. And I just prayed to God that I did it right. And if you didn't, you really just hope and pray that that order block holds. And it's not, there is no confidence in it. Like you get pretty itchy. And so then you add some like the stuff from like engineer of like, regular trading hours and balanced price ranges and deviations. And that forces a focus and as a function of focusing, right? You then de-risk some of that. But the mechanicalness, that's not even fair. The explicitness of an OR and a CR and understanding Moo and Mock and the swap of those things, like, and then you got to give credit like to Alex on, Treasury liquidity tweet, because then I had to go find out what the hell he was talking about. Um, you get into this world where everything for me is so de-risked and so not discretionary. Like I know that if I'm above that opening range, I better be long. We did a stream the other day where I proved what it means to fade the opening range, and I kept trying to long it because I was like, oh, this is the AMD, and that bastard sold off like 250 points. And I was like, you have to see that like when this thing sets, don't fade it. You have to use it as a pivot. And it also gives you some like inclination of like, are you going to, Judas? Are you not? Why not? And then you can kind of superimpose some of like the engineer stuff, or you can go find the doji if you know like when the doji set is actually when it matters to measure it. But I would say that I went from probably a C- trader. That's not fair. Probably a B- trader who traded with really big size and got lucky too many times to a trader who is hyper disciplined. Right? Like I used to trade Asia. I used to just like randomly put limit orders in like some random 4-hour OB with no stop with like 15 lot on. Like I used to do that all the time. Blow funded accounts left and right. But like if you get lucky enough, you take your payouts. It's a game of odds. But now I just look at it and go, okay, we're above it. You should be long. If you're not long, you're a moron. I don't care what math says or drawings say or candles say. And then I think probably the last bit of it, right, was when I was talking, when I was busting Anthony Credelli's chops a little bit, because I've always been real intrigued with the bar chart, because Michael used to teach on a bar chart in very early core content, I think like 2016, right? And one day I just randomly switched to it, and I went, wait a second. If you think about a bid ask, right, like a market getting bidded up, and you think of fair value because like I always think of when the engineer was like, hey, when you have two overlapping RTH gaps, it's BPR, and I was like, wait a second, if you just find where the handshakes are of fair value, you become a monster. Like you become an absolute monster, right? And so then I switched over this and the other day, and him and I were talking, and I literally just showed him like the handshake dynamic of it, and he was like, you should write this down. and you should scribe your name on this. He's like, other people have gotten close to it, but the way you just explained it is incredible. And so I'm going through that, and then I'm going through in under I got to check with Pax on all this stuff too, of like writing down how I would perceive to trade it as a time-based range, right? Because he trades it as the bid-ask spread plus 2 ticks minus 2 ticks, tag in or scratch. I look at it and go, well, if there's one underneath you and you swing low, you bet along it. And that's a very different rule set, right? I don't trade it on the Dom. I don't like. So there's other aspects of like Michael that I've pulled forward because I've seen too much in the sense that, do I think it exists? No. Do I think he taught a bunch of concepts that he accumulated over the years and like repurposed and in many ways probably redefined to be relatively coherent? And those patterns and those concepts are profitable? Bet your ass they are. I've seen Kish, who was 2017 shorter. I've seen that boy absolutely walk NVIDIA earnings. Top ticket, sell it for 100 lot. Right? So, like, you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater just because he's a little cuckoo. But, yeah, this shaped like 70%, 80% of me. Because, like, I'm, like, the other thing of it, right? Because everybody's like, oh, when I first, woke up this morning and people started waking up, and then I got to go to a meeting, but they were like, well, where did you long? Because everyone's always like, where did you get in overnight? And I was like, oh, it was really easy. You had a spread of handshake from here to here and here to here, which means I want to participate in the market very simply from here to here. What's here? 50% of the closing range. I want to get tagged in here and I want to stop here. And I put it in and then I went to bed. And then obviously I had limit orders on the way up, right? Because if you're going above opening ranges, you're long. Don't be a moron, you know? So yeah, hopefully that answered. I don't know. The 12-hour tickle's different. I'm still trying to figure out because we worked on it as a crew in Kish's group. I can't remember who I made the 12-hour tickle with. I think it was Random Sauce, but he never answers. It might have been Teak. There is no draw on liquidity. The market will decide what is fair value. There is no liquidity in Wix. All you are doing is taking markets to where markets will be paired. All right. Well, you should go listen to the engineer. He's very, very smart. Actually, you had a video that explained the gapping nature of today on your YouTube. You can talk about that. I gotta go. I have a meeting. Love you guys.
Much love to Cold Brew. Much love.
Yeah.
Love that man.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Hefe, drop us some sauce if you can. If not, I'm about to head off and get off the computer, and I can hop in the audience, and you can kind of take over if you want. If not,
No, it's fine. I have a meeting with Flux
understand.
in a few minutes, so I want to prepare so that's the stuff that we are going to talk. So it's fine.
No problem. No problem. Cook up my Hefe. You got
Thank you,
this.
hermano. Thank you for
All right.
having me.
Absolutely. All right. Much
See you.
love to everybody. I'm gonna end it here. Take it easy, everybody.
Bye.